everybody, and welcome to JV's mock draft for the Denver Broncos. It's been a month since I've dropped my last one. The reason being, free agency period was absolutely insane. I've never seen anything quite like it, honestly. And personally speaking, I didn't think it was smart to do a mock draft during that time because not only are you addressing team needs, we saw countless times there was multiple draft picks traded, players traded. And I'm doing a mock draft where my favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks, traded our franchise quarterback to the Denver Broncos for a haul of picks and players. So I'm going to be analyzing what the Denver Broncos should actually be doing with the leftover picks that they have, which I think they could salvage something and find some possible playmakers in the later rounds that potentially catapult them to Super Bowl legitimacy. I know they're kind of Super Bowl contenders on that bubble right now, but as we all know, that AFC West is very tough. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We already know Russell Wilson is now a Denver Bronco. You're going to find out more about that with my Seattle Seahawks mock draft coming out this week as well. So let's just get right into it. Before the draft actually begins, in my world, there is a pre-draft trade. The Denver Broncos are sending a third-round pick, to be precise, third round, 11th pick overall, to the Atlanta Falcons for, you guessed it, Deion Jones, the linebacker. Look, so one thing to keep in mind is the Atlanta Falcons are also in rebuild mode. They shipped Matt Ryan out to Indianapolis. They signed Marcus Mariota. They need a play caller under center. They may go after Malik Willis in the draft. But for right now, we're focusing on the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos get a great linebacker here. They get somebody who can make an impact right away, and not to mention it fills a position of need. So Deion Jones is now a Denver Bronco. Moving on to the actual draft, there are a total of 7 picks now that we've traded one of our third rounders, and I'm going to go through each of them as such. So, with the first pick for the Denver Broncos, which is a second round, last pick of that round, Denver Broncos go Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State. Look, Trey McBride doesn't have to travel too far to go to his home. He was quite possibly one of the best tight ends in all of the lands. So good that he actually got first-team All-American and quite possibly had one of the most dominant seasons for any Colorado State Rams tight end ever. He is an absolute threat. He has solid speed. He has great route running, and his hands, in my opinion, are immaculate. I believe that he can be a total package tight end. He does need to work on the blocking a little bit, but when it comes to playmaking, there's no shortage of that. Moving on to our next pick, the third round pick. There were 2 of them. One of them was sent to Atlanta for Deion Jones. We are left with one. We're going to go my favorite player in this draft as a whole, Matt Ariza, the punter out of San Diego State. This guy has an absolute cannon, and he reminds me a lot of like a left-footed Shane Leckler, for all of you who don't know who Shane Leckler was. He was a very, very decorated punter back with the Raiders, and I think he had a stint with the Texans. And Matt Ariza fits that mold. I mean, he bombs the ball. He has a 5-second hang time. He's had 80-yard punts. And I can only imagine if he kicks in the altitude there, that can literally shift the field for a defense. And quite possibly, I believe one of the best defenses, one of the best parts of defense can be a punter if you can just shift the field. Matt Ariza does that. They need big-time help with the punting situation. And why not send a third-rounder for quite possibly one of the most intriguing, best punting prospects I think we've ever had. Now, we did have Ray Guy, but Matt Ariza is right there. Moving on to our next pick, we're going with Zach Tom, the offensive tackle out of Wake Forest. There's talks that they may move him in a guard. I believe he can stay outside. Look, it's a 4th-round pick. Maybe you're looking for a flyer. I don't know if you're exactly looking for a starter in this position. You do have Garrett Bowles still playing at left tackle. You also did get Quinn Miners last year for guard. I doubt they push him inside. I think they keep him where he's at, and potentially maybe they get a starting right tackle in the future. I think he had a very solid year at Wake Forest, a lot to love, and a great pick in the 4th round. Moving on to our second 4th round pick, Josh Paschal, the edge rusher from Kentucky. Look, he had a very solid year for the Wildcats. I think he's your prototypical edge rusher when it comes to size and speed. I think there is a good amount of upside here. Not to mention, I believe the Broncos are kind of at need with the edge rusher. Bradley Chubb hasn't really proven he can stay healthy for a full season in quite some time. I was kind of hoping Von Miller made a return to Denver because I think he should try to win another Super Bowl ring with Denver and go out on top. But that's just me. Instead, the Broncos are selling for Josh Paschal, but in my opinion, I think it is a very good pick. Moving on to our 5th round pick, we're going Noah Ellis, the defensive lineman from Idaho. I believe he's one of their only NFL draft prospects. I believe he had a solid season coming out of Idaho. Granted, the level of talent that he played may not be as big as maybe, the SEC or the Big Ten, but nonetheless, he does have a solid frame, and he produces pretty well when it comes to athleticism. We'll see. I don't know if he's a plug-and-play type of guy. Maybe he needs some development. Maybe not. This is all just guessing. The draft is one big gamble, as we see from year in and year out. Moving on to our final pick of this mock draft, we're going with Merlin Robinson, the linebacker out of Arizona State University. Look, if he's here in the 7th round, I'd be extremely surprised. In our sim, he was still available. And as you guys know, like I just stated, you got to go best player available. I snagged him up in a heartbeat, no second questions asked. He, quite possibly, was the best linebacker in that Arizona State defense. I truly believe that he can make some great plays and eventually, potentially, have a starting role on that team. I know you don't really hear that much with people that are 7th rounders, but I believe here they have a solid pickup, and it adds depth to this defense. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to my mock draft for the Denver Broncos. Stay tuned for this week as I'm dropping the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm in the works with dropping the Kansas City Chiefs mock drafts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you.